Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. I do hope you are well and delivering results with your team. If you haven't already, please share this show with someone who might appreciate it and like it, and comment wherever you are listening to this, because it does really help the ratings and the analytics behind this that pushes it out to other people who might want to listen about leadership, management and mindset. This week's show, I'm going to focus on something that we know is going to happen, but we sometimes don't want to face into it in our leadership world. That's how you deal when a senior team disagrees and has disagreements. Now, let's face it, there's going to be tension in any teams. We're people. There's going to be egos in there. There's going to be status. There's going to be fear of change. There's going to be fear of being overlooked. There's going to be this idea of self-proclaiming, and obviously this tension that happens about self-preservation. You're going to get that. That happens in all worlds and all walks of life. We don't ever, and we should never, expect everyone to agree every day in every meeting. That's not normal. If everyone is agreeing every day in every meeting, you've probably got a couple of things. You've got maybe people who couldn't give a monkey's and they're just going with the flow. You've got yes people around you who are just nodding and they're not doing anything. Or, miracle, everyone agrees on everything. Now, let's face it, no one agrees on anything. You can't even agree on how to make a best cup of tea. So we know that people are going to disagree, and there's no difference in a senior team. So you're going to have to deal with these tensions and these disagreements as a leader, especially if you're the head of that. But even if you're not, you're going to have to be able to deal with it. So how do you deal with those disagreements? How do you keep it grounded? How do you keep it professional? How do you stop it spreading and possibly poisoning larger departments or other teams? What you do does matter. More than that moment, it matters about what happens after. If you're in a meeting and you react emotionally, I know we're humans, or most of you are. I hope you are. Unless there's a few aliens listening out there, who knows? If you are, welcome to Earth. Please don't kill us all. But there may be a fact that there is going to be emotions, and it can be public, and it can turn one small thing into a long-running issue. You know, we know that people love drama. We know that the good old-fashioned row can create all sorts of it, and as soon as it happens, even if the people are not in that meeting, people will know about it. So we aim to make sure that we are protecting the reputation, resetting any work relationships if it does go wrong, and stop it becoming this pattern. You know, because what can happen is you have habits where you will fall out with people, and almost constantly. And then you get this one-upmanship, people trying to play the game of, I'm going to be better than you, I'm going to catch you out, oh, you did me last time, I'm going to do you. Absolute waste of time and energy, but it happens all the time. It becomes norm. Sometimes because people live in these silos, they're not aligned to the purpose of the business, so they don't really understand what the bigger picture are. Oh, they do understand, but they choose to make sure they're protecting themselves or their teams. And other times, you know, people are basically just very immature and can fall out with people and sulk. I mean, I've had senior people not talking to me for a couple of weeks, sulking because I disagreed with them in a meeting. Sounds ridiculous. I hope I've moved on from that, but you will see it. So how do you deal with it? Let's have a look. So a good approach is, number one, you don't have to fight that battle in the meeting. You don't fight a battle in a meeting, and afterwards you don't. You've got to avoid this emotion. I know that might sound really simple, but, you've got to make sure that you're sending a message out that you are not going to get into a battle. You're not going to get emotionally embroiled in it in that meeting. You're going to be very cool. So the first one is, don't fight the battle in that meeting or afterwards. You've got to be able to level yourself. Make sure that if you're in a situation where something has gone wrong, that you don't walk out and start to send emails, or even sometimes send emails in the meetings, which is a bit strange. But, I found that really weird. I've been in meetings with people and we're having this debate, discussion, basically all the good stuff you should be doing. And whilst you're there, or maybe after, because I don't like to I shouldn't be really reading emails in your meeting. There's a meeting etiquette which is another podcast you might want to go back and have a listen to. But you shouldn't be reading or doing emails, but you actually get out there and you realise the email you received was from the meeting you were in. And that's really bad. So make sure you're not being emotional when you're sending emails. Make sure that if you're outside that meeting and you've fallen out with someone, you don't send it emotionally. You take time to read the email. So step back so you're not fighting that battle after the meeting. Don't start copying in senior people all the time so you try to vent to a wider team. You're not trying to win something here through these office politics. You're really not. You're going to make yourself look foolish. You might think, I'm going to get one up on that person. I'm going to send this email to prove my point, especially if you've got challenged and you don't have all the data. And a lot of time you don't. We're not machines. If you're going to be a human, then sometimes you're not going to know anything. But say somebody's challenged you on it and you think, we're definitely right, and you feel like I've got belittled by that person, don't go out there, find it and go, look, I've told you in this meeting. People usually remember that a lot more after. The conversation, the disagreement, the fallout in the meeting can be done and moved on. But if you carry it on by then going out there, sending an emotional email, copying in everybody as a senior, venting, try to win your point, you look foolish. So be careful about that. So if there's a battle and you're after the meeting, just be careful that you don't slip down there. Make sure it leads a little bit in to the first point. Second point, separate the facts from the emotion. Ask yourself, what exactly was said? Was the information inaccurate? Was it badly timed? Was it simply just a criticism? What was it that emotionally triggered me in that meeting that made me be annoyed? Was the fact right? Did that person deliberately undermine you? Or did she just prioritise looking good in front of other leaders? Or were actually she making a good point? Was she correct? Because in the motion and the time and the emotion in the time that you can sometimes slip in thinking that person did it to me. Oh, they caught me out. I'm going to get them. But really, did it? Was it credible what they said? Have that time. Did that project come in under or over budget? Did it come out of there? So separate the facts from the emotion. Again, easier said than done. But look at facts. And that's a lot of time when you can prove things out to people as you stick to the facts. You're going to be factual. Not robotically factual, but you're going to be factual about the things that are said in the meeting. You're going to report. If you do get challenged, then that's fine. Then you come back with, this is what the data is showing me. And if they say, I don't think that's right, no, this is the information I've got at the minute. It might be incorrect and I don't mind checking it, but actually we need to make sure we're using this. The person comes back, I feel that's not right. It doesn't feel right to me. And we know humans are great emotional creatures, but sometimes when it comes to business, it's about the facts, not the emotion. Make sure you're speaking directly to that person if there is an issue privately. So if you think something's gone wrong in a meeting, you think that person is out of order, it's usually best to make sure you split it. This works better with a peer, not your boss, obviously, but keep it calm, keep it short, keep it factual. I want to talk to you about that meeting earlier. When that issue was raised in front of the senior leadership, we weren't really aligned beforehand. I felt exposed a little bit and maybe undermined. I'm happy to discuss the problem openly, but, prefer we could handle those disagreements directly, not in the middle of somewhere. So this is where you try to, after the thing has happened, go away, digest it and then diffuse it. Explain the impact of what was said. Avoid those accusations, to give the person a route to recover without losing faith and and set some boundaries for that person going forward when it comes to those. You want that person to work with you on the team, especially if you're peer-to-peer and you have this big fallout. But if you are having this issue, make sure that you are carefully wording it, walking through it. Another point is watch the response carefully. Make sure you are reading the room. There's some good signs in a meeting when things are going well. Someone's acknowledging what's happening, they're nodding along with you. Other times you can tell the body language. But there's some good signs as well when you're looking about how you give somebody feedback. So, does that person acknowledge that there's been an impact? Did she actually know? Did he actually know there was a problem? Or did she actually, they were that numb she didn't really realise? What were they trying to get out of it? You're looking for the responses. Was it that they wanted recognition? Did they want to see that people around them and you being part of her peer group understood her issues and her team's issues? Does she feel that she's been left out or he's been left out? So look for some responses so you can sort of gauge with that person who might have offended you or done something in the meeting, that you step back, have a listen, look to what she said, and then how can we sort of look at not repeating it? And that's back to the point 3 about spending time with the person, talking through the impacts, so that the next time you're in that meeting, you don't have the same situation. You've got to try and rebuild your position with that person. If it's a senior person was in the room and they might have heard this disagreement, how do you get back on there? How do you make sure that this is not becomes drama? You need to keep calm with any follow-up actions. As I said in point 1, you need to deliver results. That's what it's about. You need to use your clarity, take ownership, and be professional. And if you have been, or your team has made mistakes, then you need to put your hand up and go, this was my bag, this has gone wrong. Let's look at how we can approach it as a group, as a team, especially if it's a senior team, to move forward. Because me losing means you lose. Because that's the whole thing of working as a team is one part loses, it's everyone loses. If the goalkeeper drops a ball on the score, you're still down on the scoreboard. It doesn't make any difference. A lot of people lose sight of that, become very isolated into their own silo. Now, when I said all that, it's all about rebuilding. It's all about if you have felt that the person has said something in the meeting and it was you disagreed with them, but also you don't be too passive. Many managers make that mistake. They become too quiet afterwards. They can avoid contact with this person. I talked about someone going in a sulk with me because I'd raised something in a meeting. Please avoid that, because that just makes you look so unprofessional. Really does. Make sure that you're visible. Make sure you stay normal. You keep your standards high. You continue to speak with that person with confidence. And if you've had a professional disagreement, that's normal. But the sustained silence after it undermines a sign of you being a professional manager. So take your time to become recentered, as I've said, but don't become passive. Don't disappear. Don't shrink away. Don't moan behind people's backs. Make sure you're back on the front foot. You are normal. It shows that you can take a criticism, and if it's valid, that's fine. You can also have a robust conversation and disagreement without breaking down in tears or having a sulk after. So that's a good thing to do. Just make sure you don't become too passive. If this disagreement escalates and it becomes the norm, or it becomes more emotional, it becomes a pattern, you've got to make sure that you spend a bit of time making sure that you can control this yourself, because there is a point where a disagreement in a team can slip past that. It becomes normalised. It becomes almost a bullying situation, and I don't say that lightly. Your senior professional people, that's something that you'd hope could be avoided, but it can happen. So just make sure that if this does become a pattern and almost this behaviour becomes normalised and becomes emotional, make sure you start to document some facts here. If you can't deal with it yourself, you're going to have to bring in other people, maybe your boss, maybe somebody else. Make sure you're professional. Talk to your manager about how you think this is going on. If this is becoming an attack almost, if this person is becoming, really is more than that, record it. It's very rare this happens. A disagreement is disagreement. It can happen, and it should happen. You should drive those things through a business. You've got to have a business that can check and balance itself and have that. But if it does become too much and it is getting harder and they are becoming more personal, record it, raise it, escalate it, because it's the last thing you need. Let's have a final thought, right? So lots of peer conflicts come and go, and they're normal. You should have a conflict. You should have confidence if it's pushing in the right direction. There's going to be some of this that might become more competition based. It could be around people not understanding the purpose. They could feel uncertain. Conflict can be hard, but it's not around winning politics. It's not around getting one up on them. It's around having a compromise. It's around being fair. It's around making sure that your team, as in your peers in your SLT team, know what they're doing. Make sure that if this is happening, that you don't take those fights outside and start raising emails and bringing everyone in. Make sure you separate their emotion, use facts. Make sure you speak privately with that person if you think it's wrong. Watch for the responses in the next meeting. Read the room. Make sure you know where the warning signs are. Make sure you rebuild those good things that are building with you. Make sure you are a team. Work with your peer. Work with your manager. Don't become passive. Don't get sulky. Don't go into a corner. If there is patterns and you need to escalate, make sure you document and escalate. And, you need to be seen to be that person who is the professional in the room, the person who is coming with data, is wanting to drive to get results, is wanting to make sure the business works, and is not there to play games. So that's my thoughts on what you can do when you have an issue or you're dealing with disagreement with senior people in your team. There's lots more depth we can go into that. And if you'd like some more information on it or you'd love to ask questions, then I'm open to feedback as it's a gift. So send them to managermattpodcast@gmail.com. I answer all the emails and I'll answer you directly and even build a podcast around any questions that are asked. If not, you can get the comments in wherever you pick up your podcast. And as I said at the beginning, please share it, rate it, because it really does help the show. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.